Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities in Miniature, and boom, look what I got. Plastic sprues in the mail, but what are they, you may ask? Well, they are the Scions of Flame from the new Warhammer, WarCry, Catacombs, whatever box set that was ridiculously, unfortunately overpriced, but I managed to get these guys actually for pretty reasonable, if reasonable isn't an oxymoron that goes with Games Workshop prices, unfortunately. No, I actually was a pretty decent price, I gotta say, including the cards and everything. This was a warband that, once I saw that original teaser art, I just absolutely had to have these guys. I really dug, especially once we got the full reveal. I think it was at Adepticon. The dude with the big flaming samurai armor stuff. The lowly alkalites are a little bit more dull and boring, but I mean, you gotta have them. You take the good with the bad. So we have 3 half sprues. As you guys know, most of the WarCry warbands, I think, took up 3 of these, whereas typical Warhammer Underworlds is only 2, and characters seem to be 1. Seems to be the way we're operating these days. I don't see a whole lot of repeated parts, and unlike stuff like Necromunda, where you have just the entire sprue doubled up, I don't see anything really that looks like a repeat. So what I would like to do, I think today, is I will remove all of the pieces and we'll go step by step through the various fighters. We will actually show you the part breakdown, just in case you end up like me and don't have any actual instructions. This is going to be my chance to kind of walk through and figure out where everything goes, and then from there we can see the final models as well. So it'll be an interesting one. Alright, let's start with the Blazing Lord. That's the big fancy guy of the group. He is on the larger 32mm base. Oops. I'm not sure which of those hip pads go where. Interestingly enough, a lot of these guys actually do have sculpted faces, so if you didn't want to put the face masks, I mean, that is an option. Personally, I think they look cooler with them on. This fancy salamander-esque standard pull there. Detailed armor. And again, these are his waist armor. It's hard to see. Maybe they're the shoulder pads. Ooh. Okay, on second thought, maybe they're shoulder pads. Yeah, okay. Fine. I'm wrong. So that is all the pieces for the Blazing Lord. Do I have them all there still? Hopefully. Okay. Let's go ahead and grab the Brazen Champion and take a look at him. So the Brazen Champion is also going to be on one of the 32mm bases. Lots of really fragile, wispy pieces. He's got the big flaming blade there. He's got all these chains hanging off of his waist. Let's see there. That was a fun one to try to remove. Actually, for the most part, I didn't have too much trouble getting all these pieces off, thankfully. Isn't wearing a whole lot underneath his robe thing there. And then his head is a 2-piece deal. Putting the face mask on. He's one of the few actually does not have a face underneath that. Construction-wise, I gotta say, after figuring out where all the parts go, and I did have Reddit to help with that, it's pretty intuitive how everything goes together. Might be not a bad idea to leave the front piece off if you're really a super dedicated painter. I'm not. I'm just going to glue it all together, and you guys know that. But I'd say of the bunch, the other Blazing Lord is probably the most complex in terms of pieces. And why don't we take a look at the flaming Immolator guy next. Okay, Immolator as well is on a 32. Back side of his body is bare. Front side is starting to have the flames. Chest and upper arm is on fire here. Right arm is completely on fire. Head is entirely the face mask, which is probably also on fire. Actually, I guess it isn't. The other leg. And finally his left hand, which also happens to be on fire. Like, yeah, we'll figure it out. Torso together first. Okay, maybe this guy isn't as straightforward. Okay, there we go. See, I don't like this modern, let's puzzle the parts just because we can and make life difficult for people who want to do conversions. Okay, it's like, forget it. I can't even do it barehanded. We're going to have to just glue it together. We're not going to be able to hold it all together. But it doesn't look too difficult, I guess. Let's grab the Inferno Priest, who is spewing fire out of her mouth or from her blade or something here. Grab that base too. Now with the Priest, we switch over to the smaller, new, annoying 28mm bases. And I'll be honest, this is one of the few models. I actually broke a strand of her hair there. Not that it's going to make a huge difference. She does have a mask, so... Again, if you really wanted to keep it off, if you wanted to do something with all these masks, if you really want to get creative and maybe put Kingdom Death masks on them, that might be fun. Eyepiece right there. Her staff. On fire. Front of the torso. I'm curious what these scales come from. Back of the torso. The other foot. Oh, and then she's got this real tiny little brand thing that's actually supposed to sit on top of the staff, so be careful, don't lose that. And then there is the little fire thingy she's got blazing off of her blade there. I gotta admit, to me, this is the weakest sculpt of the bunch. I don't like the position of the hands, but that's just me being nitpicky. Maybe once I have her put together, I'll feel different. Why don't we grab the Fireborn next, which are the more middle-of-the-road fighters. Okay, now the Fireborn is where things get a little interesting. So we have two of them. I'm just going to lay it all out here. We have this stoic warrior type who's just standing around, heavily armored, with a mask. Cool-looking mask. And then he's got a dagger and an axe. He doesn't have much. He's 120 points, but then we have the other one that actually is a bit more modular and actually has two different profiles. We have the gear that slings over the shoulder like so. One way or the other, they're supposed to take this chakram thing, which they call a sunblade, 28mm bases. Again, they're kind of middle-of-the-road fighters. And then they have this weird hairpiece crown thing. I got to figure out how that goes on. And then you have a choice of either they're carrying a blade or an axe. And they actually do have two different profile cards for those. So you can see here, it really comes down to how many dice are they rolling and how much damage potential they have as well. So they're also 5 points cheaper than this guy. And the stats are the same, weapon stats aren't. Okay. But this guy also has a special ability, whereas this one does not. I was going to say stat-wise, these are exactly the same, but we got a special ability on that card. Okay. So those are the Fireborn, and then the last set of models we have are the Initiates, which we only get two of, I believe, but one of them has a few options, so we'll go over that as well. So like I said, last up are the Initiates. We have two of them on the smaller 25mm bases. Now, what's interesting about these guys is one of them, the female one, if I can find the other pair of arms, where did they go? So in the front and the back. Okay. She has two different weapon options, but it's purely cosmetic. Neither of them actually are reflected in the profile anywhere, even on the card, see? However, we do have 3 different variations on the other Initiate, Morningstar, Flameburst Pot, or Hooked Axe. And they all have their own individual cards. And what's funny is this guy actually, with those various pieces, ends up becoming the most complex figure of the bunch. And again, that's more so just due to the extra bits. And I'm already envisioning I might grab some of those extra Wargames Atlantic Dark Age Irish I have and maybe give one of them one of these weapons and make an extra Initiate or 2. And this guy's got the most hipster hair of the whole bunch. Look at that pompadour. This guy's like, I was into chaos before chaos was a thing. Yeah. So again, you have the Flaming Hot Pot. With or without noodles, I don't know. You have a Hooked Axe. And a Morning Star that also is on fire. Because, you know, they are the Scions of Flame. Look at his cloak. This dude's got swag. Alright, so, give me a moment. I'm going to put them all together. We'll bring them all back. I'll grab whatever actual WarCry people I have laying around down here, and we'll see how they all turn out. Alright, so I'm thinking I'm going to work my way backwards. So we're going to start with the boring, grunty Initiates and work our way up to the fancy pants guys, but they're not wearing pants. So here is our Hipster Initiate. And naturally, I had to go with the Flaming Morning Star. And I can't really tell if this is a mold line on his forehead going down the middle of his face, or if that's like some kind of ritualistic scarring, because I swear I saw it on another model somewhere. Was it the other Initiate? Or no, it was the Fireborn guy. I'll get to him. Nice sense of dynamicism. I like this guy. He looks pretty well dressed despite his lack of shoes. Being an Initiate. Here is, again, you can see, I don't know, again, if it's a mold line. It looks like a mold line, but that's easy enough to try to take care of. I went with the Flaming Club. Again, they're on 25mm bases. I swear some of the other warbands had a lot more grunt, low-ranking guys. Maybe it's just me. So here's our another Fireborn. Fireborn. I'm like, I'll get it right eventually. So I went with the Flaming Axe. And again, I can't tell, but it looks like it's probably just a... Ooh, that needs to be cleaned up. Probably just a mold line. There's one going down the leg I didn't catch either. Alright, fair enough. I didn't realize this guy actually had a alternate weapon here, but again, it's just a cosmetic change. There's no real difference in his stats or anything like that. Those are some mold lines. Look at that. Whoo-wee. Okay. Yeah, I gotta take care of that before we go ahead and start painting these dudes. Okay, then we have the Inferno Priest. And again, still... something about it just feels off to me. I don't like the pose. But, you know, you can't win them all. Oh, crap. That's not even straight. It's still not. Okay, well, we'll make the best we can do. But you can't win every one of them. Moving on to the Immolator. Hey, he's pretty cool. Clean that up there a bit. I do like the sense of movement on this guy. Nice detailing overall. And then we get to the big guys. I didn't bother gluing them to the bases because they're pretty firmly planted on with their feet on the ground, so not too much of an issue. Bit of a gap there. Not a huge problem. Definitely some more cleanup necessary, but that's always the case. It seems with my models. Pretty big, pretty bulky. Definitely a lot larger and thicker than the Initiates. Oops. And I can hear a monster hunter hunt starting in the room nearby. And finally we have the Blazing Lord, who more than likely will be the very first one that gets painted. I dig him, and I still think this is totally reminds me of the Salamanders. That is supposed to intentionally be bent as well. Why, I'm not sure, but it is. Also on a 32mm base. You can see him with the whole crew here. And if you're curious how these guys stack up, I'm just gonna... We'll keep you, and you. Maybe the Fireborn. I keep wanting to call him the Dragonborn. So we'll use these three as our measurement scale. Grabbing some of the other painted warbands. I have not finished every warband with these guys. The Splintered Fang, he's the only one still that's finished. Cypher Lords are all done. The Crow Runner Raven dudes, or whatever they're called, Night Lords, they're finished. Untamed Beasts are all done. So, our Blazing Lord here definitely is a lot bigger and bulkier than most of the other models. I think he's big enough that there's probably some potential there if you wanted to try, converting him into a Chaos Warrior. I would love to see more designs like that. He's almost as bulky as one. That's pretty impressive. In fact, if anything, I'd say he's a little bit bigger than an average modern Chaos Warrior. So that is quite the accomplishment. Is that really a fair contest? Probably not. About the same size as a Primaris. Fair enough. Grabbing an Orlock. I don't know why we have an Orlock here. I was looking for one of my Mantic guys, in case you wanted to use them, say, in Vanguard or something. So, as you can see, I think at least size-wise with the GW stuff, they totally fit right in. Maybe the Dark Oak Queen is a little bit bigger, but she is royalty after all. Actually, human size, that's not bad. That Initiate isn't too much bigger than our Mantic Basilian. I think it's just the Blazing Lord is way too big. He's a big dude. Okay. Well, this is interesting to see that the Initiates, at least, are definitely going to be able to scale with a bit better other things out there. Let's grab our Oathmark, guys. Oh, my poor questing knight. Someday we'll get you your upgraded version. So using Oathmark, and check that out. That's actually a pretty fair scale equality going on there. And then we get into guys like my ever-present privateer, Bloody Bradigan Pit. Grabbing a few other models. The Legends of Signum model up here. She's a bit bigger. Different Frostgrave guy, yeah. So that's interesting to see. I mean, I think this is actually a pretty cool crew. If you wanted to do a fire-based Frostgrave crew, I think you've got the definite makings of one here. I would say use like the Inferno Priest as your mage. Maybe the Immolator is the mage, or the Apprentice. Your thugs. Regular soldiers. Obviously your captain. And I think you got a whole nice little crew of models to mess around with. So visually, I'd say everybody is pretty nice. My one disappointment, again, is the Inferno Priest, and your mileage may vary, obviously. But overall, pretty pleased with what I've got here. Not pleased with the price, but at least I was able to get it for a reasonable fraction thereof, so I can't complain a whole lot. Do keep your eyes peeled, and hopefully we'll see this set sold individually in the near future, because obviously not everybody wants to go shell out $200 plus just for some new models that may or may not see the tabletop anytime soon. Hopefully, by the time these guys are ready and willing and painted for such an occasion, we will be in a much healthier situation. And hopefully all of you out there are staying safe as well. With that said, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here soon. Bye-bye.